Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to be diving into a concept that is absolutely crucial if you want to safeguard your biggest goals against, well, life's completely unpredictable nature. We're drawing some incredible insights from the book, 12 Steps to a Good Life, to really figure out how we can manage our plans in a world that, quite frankly, just refuses to cooperate.
As Mike Tyson so brilliantly put it, everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. Honestly, he hit the nail on the head with this one. The author uses this visceral quote right up front to set the stakes for us. We really need to wake up to the reality that getting derailed by things outside our control isn't just a, slight possibility. It's an absolute guarantee. Reality is going to throw a punch, for sure.
Which brings us to Section 1, the perfect plan illusion.
Look, no matter how precise or beautifully formatted your plan is, life is just inherently chaotic. It's Murphy's Law, right? Anything that can go wrong will go wrong. The author makes a firm point here. A plan that neglects contingency planning is fundamentally incomplete. You literally can't just build a timeline and expect the universe to kindly step aside. Reality will crash into those perfectly laid plans, and we've got to factor that chaos into the equation right from day one.
So why don't we prepare for the chaos? Well, the text points to this fascinating cognitive distortion called normalcy bias. It's basically our tendency to severely underestimate the possibility of a crisis, falsely assuming that things are just going to continue to be normal. It's exactly why people ignore storm warnings or downplay health risks, just thinking, oh, I'll be fine, I can just go to the store later. Normalcy bias lulls us into this incredibly dangerous false sense of security.
Or, as Robert Burns famously wrote, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry. And since plans naturally go awry, just crossing our fingers and hoping for the best? Yeah, that is not a viable strategy. We need a robust, totally practical defense mechanism to handle the exact moment our perfectly constructed path hits a dead end.
Moving on to Section 2, the what-if strategy.
So instead of hiding from or, fearing the unexpected, we can actually start systematically predicting it. And we do this through contingency planning. Simply put, this is the systematic preparation for unintended outcomes and unpredicted events. It's about shifting from being passive victims of chaos to becoming active managers of our own destiny. The author stresses that right in the planning phase, you've got to develop these contingencies to mitigate risk. Because if you only ever plan for success, you're basically leaving the back door wide open for failure.
To actually put this into practice, we use the what-if strategy. The text uses this highly relatable scenario, buying a house. Okay, you don't just plan out the mortgage payments. You systematically stop and ask, wait, what if I get sick and have massive medical bills? What if I change jobs and suddenly have to move? What if the property values in this neighborhood totally drop? This brainstorming phase is almost like a stress test. It forces you to look at the vulnerabilities hidden right inside your supposedly perfect plan.
That leads us perfectly into Section 3, assessing your real risks.
Now, obviously, brainstorming a dozen terrifying scenarios could easily just send you into a panic spiral, right? So we need a way to objectively evaluate them. The text gives us this absolutely crucial 3-step risk management assessment. For every single what if you just came up with, ask yourself, 1. How likely is it to actually occur? 2. How much potential damage will it do to your overall plan? And 3. What's the mitigation cost? Meaning the time, money, or effort required to handle that risk. Gathering all this info lets you make a highly educated estimate, rather than just freaking out and acting out of fear.
Next up is Section 4, the cost of mitigation.
Okay, this brings us to some real-world trade-offs. Once you understand the risks, you've got to figure out how to allocate your effort effectively to prepare for the worst. Mapping your life out like this reveals exactly where your biggest vulnerabilities lie. For instance, take a look at a scenario like a medical emergency. The likelihood might only be moderate, but the potential damage to your financial plan? Huge. The cost to mitigate that might mean buying better insurance or aggressively building an emergency fund. You literally map these scenarios out just like this to see exactly what it's going to cost to protect your primary goals. And as you can see here, you really need a high-effort allocation for those high-risk, high-damage scenarios. I mean, it makes sense, right? You can't prepare for a meteorite hitting your house with the exact same intensity as you prepare for a leaky roof. You have to put your effort where it actually matters most. And then you have to make a really tough call. Are you truly willing to pay that mitigation cost for your primary plan to succeed? If the answer is no, then honestly, that primary plan might actually be completely unworkable from the start.
And our final section, Section 5, expecting the unexpected. So we've built up this incredibly practical framework, but the source material actually ties this all back to a much deeper philosophical mindset about how we carry ourselves once our plan is finally in motion. Look at the stark contrast here. On one hand, you have the pure misery and anxiety of trying to rigidly control every single outcome. On the other, you have the calm resilience of focusing purely on your intention and your own effort. Execute your contingency plan, do the hard work, but ultimately, you kind of have to detach from those rigid expectations. Sometimes, a plan that doesn't work out exactly as you drew it up actually ends up working out even better.
Let's recap how to bulletproof your goals right now with these actionable takeaways. First, you've got to systematically ask what if and hyper-focus your energy on those high-risk, high-damage contingencies. Second, weigh your genuine willingness to pay the mitigation cost to handle those specific risks. Third, build out alternative plans for when things inevitably go wrong. And above all else, embrace flexibility and resilience when reality finally hits.
I want to leave you with one final thought. Look, you know the punch is coming. Unmanageability is just a fact of life. So, when reality inevitably punches, will you be ready? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Start asking what if today, go build those contingency plans, and I will see you next time.